All right, everyone, we should be live. We have to make sure that's actually the case on Rumble. GM, slowest slow mode on the internet, says Donna Khan. No, actually, that was Captain Murphy, sorry. Good morning. The daughter's name isn't Hillary. Yeah. No, we didn't name our daughter after a loser. Don't worry about that. Anyway, I've got to refresh this. Just a sec. Let's make sure that Rumble is actually live. Yep, the latency is definitely less these days. Rumble rants. Okay, just give me a minute to make sure everything's hunky-dory here. Hunky-dory, like David Bowie. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Never mind. Anyway, we're going to be covering some news topics today. I will be doing the super chats, don't worry. If you send a super chat, I'll try to get to it. But we also have some news to cover. First and foremost, the formula shortage shuffle featuring Joe Biden and his administration. They're trying to blame it on Trump. Actually, at the moment, believe it or not, the Biden administration is crazy enough to try to blame the formula shortage on Donald Trump. It's like, your presidency asterisk administration, of course, is now a year and a half old. But everything that goes wrong is the problem of your predecessor or of Putin, of course. It has nothing to do with the shuttering of one of the main formula factories in the U.S. No, it has to do with a NAFTA loophole, actually. You'll remember that Donald Trump reworked NAFTA to be a little bit more non-lopsided as far as trade went. And one of the provisions in there was that there would be a further limitation of baby formula coming in from Canada. And I'm thinking to myself, Canada is one country out of almost 200 in the world. What the hell does that have to do with the baby formula shortage? How much Canadian baby formula was actually being used in the United States anyway? A negligible amount. And so that has absolutely nothing to do with what's going on right now. Really, what it is, number one, Bidenomics. That is the shortage economy based on lockdownerism, partially, shutting down factories, et cetera, et cetera. Number two, it's just optics. That is that the Biden economy is weak. People understand that it's weak. They're expecting a recession. They're expecting shortages. So they're hoarding. They're going into the store and they're buying their baby formula. They go back half an hour later and buy, a couple more cans of it or something like that. That's number two. It's funny that the Biden administration, instead of addressing that particular issue, wants to import from Europe, by the way. If it's Trump's fault, if the baby formula shortage is the result of NAFTA being reworked in order to block some material from Canada, why would you not go after that? It's because Biden's not going to touch NAFTA with a 10-foot pole because he's not completely off of his rocker. He's just mostly off of his rocker. And the puppeteers behind him understand that that would be desperately unpopular. One of the most popular things Trump did was rework NAFTA. So that's the formula shortage in a nutshell. By the way, I do not have a spoon to clank. Well, I mean, I do, but that's a collectible. I've got my lime water. I don't want to get scurvy. Not a great idea. Be like a pirate. Have bendy bones. When they used the skull and crossbones on pirate ship flags, that was because they all had scurvy. They were wishing that their leg bones were actually as straight as the ones on their flags. But yes, the formula shortage, it has nothing to do with Trump. The idea that a reworking of NAFTA blocking some transference of some baby formula from one particular nation that is not exactly a major industrial economy, which is Canada, a lot of it's agriculture, tourism, etc. The idea that it has anything to do with the baby formula shortage is absolutely asinine, which of course means that the Biden admin is running with it because it is an asinine asterisk administration. They don't have any idea what they're doing as far as the economy goes. We'll also talk about Dr. Oz. He's being embattled right now in his attempt to take over the Pennsylvania slot to run for the Senate. This is the one candidate that Trump has endorsed that I would flat out tell people, do not vote for Dr. Oz. It doesn't matter what alternative you vote for. There are several of them. That's a recipe for disaster. I like how some people are saying just a second here, actually. Let me pull up the RCP article. I'll do some live fact checking here. Let me see if it's still there. Yeah, Kathy Barnett, Schumer's favorite candidate in Pennsylvania. People are saying that she's unelectable. Kathy Barnett, of course, another candidate for that particular slot, pro-gun, has had some pro-BLM views before, which, definitely I don't support. Here's the thing. Which one is worse? Because they're calling her unelectable, etc. They're actually, the legacy media is stumping for Dr. Oz. They actually like the Trump-endorsed candidate for a change. Let me ask this. Which one is worse? You don't gain the Senate seat. The Democrats take it. They have to hold that seat. Or you have someone in that seat who's going to be a Mitt Romney neocon. I fail to see the difference. They're not going to work for the betterment of the United States. Dr. Oz can't even answer the question when he's asked if he would vote for the Ukrainian handout, the $40 billion to Ukraine, while people are in economic turmoil in the United States. I would not vote for him under any circumstances. I don't care if Trump endorsed him. And this is a deviation from generally my support for Trump. Most of the candidates he's endorsed are reasonable. They're populistic individuals. Dr. Oz is not a populist. Dr. Oz is like a Mitt Romney. And it looks a lot like Donald Trump has a checkered past when it comes to endorsements and hirings. Mostly it's good. I'll give him credit for that. Mostly the people like Michael Flynn or something like that. Most of these people are sane, they're reasonable, they're rational. But then every once in a while you get a Bolton. Every once in a while you get a Pence. Every once in a while you get effectively what amounts to a toss out to the neocon establishment. And he shouldn't be doing that. I don't know why he endorsed Dr. Oz. I would not vote for him. We've got enough dual citizens in Congress as is. Too many of them. There shouldn't be any, really. And he won't address that, number one. He won't even answer basic questions about what he would do if he was a senator. So why should anyone vote for him? Kathy Barnett is better. There are other candidates in the running for that Pennsylvania Senate slot. And all of them, in my opinion, are better than Dr. Oz. I don't know why Trump endorsed him. It's a mystery to me. I wouldn't have. Then we'll get to Rand Paul. Of course, he is still winning his war against excess spending. The United States right now is on the bordering of a stagflationary recession. Congress believes it's a good idea to attempt to unanimously give $40 billion to a foreign country while we can't even pay our own bills. People can't find formula in the stores, but we're sending it to Ukraine and we're sending it to the southern border, leading to an interesting exchange, actually, that I covered earlier, where some racist liberals were saying, well, you just want to starve the brown children. That's why you don't want to send formula to the borderland to give to the little kids that are in the Biden camps, the Biden concentration camps, the ones that George Takei's family was in at the behest of Socialist Democrat FDR. My answer is twofold. Number one, if it comes down to an American child or a non-American child going without the formula, give it to the American child. That's what the government is fucking paid to do. That's number one. I don't care if you think that that's bad. I don't care if you think it's immoral. If one of them is going to go without, it should not be the one that's actually the child of taxpayers within your own country. That's not the purpose of government. That's number one. Number two, you're talking about millions of brown children. The use of the term is, Jesus Christ, you're nuts. Brown children, as the term goes, according to what these liberals are stating, they don't have formula either. Believe it or not, there are children in the United States that aren't, they're not blonde-haired and blue-eyed and look like they came in from Iceland. Apparently, that escapes notice among these people. Rand Paul is right to lock down this bill and to force debate over it, so that the American people can judge for themselves in the course of that debate the merits of the situation with regards to sending money to Ukraine. We've got a recession, or we're on the border of it. We have inflation that is nearing double digits. It will tick up, I believe, next month. It could become stagflationary. That is, that businesses start firing people. We've got a war that we are tacitly involved in. We've got a border crisis. We have a crime crisis, thanks to Biden and his moron administration. We have every problem under the sun, and their answer is send billions and billions of dollars to a foreign state. Ultimately, if the legacy media reporting on the situation is true, Russia's already getting its ass handed to it. Why not just give them more weapons and give that money to Americans? Or just not mint the money in the first place. That will cause at least a slight bump in inflation. $40 billion. Apparently, this is nothing to the people in Congress. Oh, $40 billion? That sounds cheap. Yeah, you could solve world hunger with that $40 billion, according to their response to Elon Musk attempting to buy Twitter. And then we'll talk about Ultra MAGA. But first, let me get to a few super chats here, because that's a big one that's absolutely hilarious to me. It's going to be a doozy. Thomas Conservative, I love your videos. Oh, thank you, Thomas. I love them too. 87 Sparky, do you know where to get the best heirloom? Heirloom seeds, look it up on eBay. Actually, eBay is really good as far as having heirloom seeds and things of that nature. Anything agricultural like that, eBay is still the best. World Seed Supply, I think, still has heirloom seeds. I think that they're on the site now, actually, over the last few years. Used to get drugs from them, believe it or not. J-Dog, here is some money to the diaper fund and baby formula too. Yes, don't worry, we're fine on that. I feel very sorry for people who aren't. People impacted by the Biden crisis. Tom McMorrow, how badly is this Ministry of Truth thing going to backfire? This Nina J character is comically nefarious. I don't know what to make of it. It's backfiring pretty badly, considering that the White House came out the other day and claimed that the vaccine wasn't available until Joe Biden's administration. They had to walk that one back. That's because so many people dogpiled them that they couldn't just ignore it. It was great. Oh boy. Drennan, just made 10 gallons of mead. Going to make 30 more. Learn new skills, everyone. You mean like honey mead, like a kind of beer that is sweetened. Sounds good. Daily Taylor, congrats on the new arrival. Here is some energy drink money. You're going to need it. Love you, Sticks. Yeah, I've got some energy drinks behind me and a lot more in the drawer, actually, next to me off camera. Bad for Monkey 4 on Twitch. Please, not Oz. We don't need another Mittens. Yes, exactly. Dr. Oz would be basically like Mitt Romney. And he's not qualified for the position. I don't understand why Trump endorsed him. There have been a few things in Trump's political career that I've really deviated from him on. One of the first was the CIA black sites thing. The suggestion that we restart them so that people can be tortured without due process in sites like the one they had in Chicago for years, without any oversight or without any real oversight, because everything's classified. I disagreed with that. When we bombed the Syrian airbase, I thought that was a bad idea. And Trump has gotten distracted in some cases by side issues that he should have ignored in favor of main issues, the border, the crime crisis under Biden, certainly taxes, things of that nature, things that affect large numbers of people. He has gotten sidetracked on some of these things, and that's something that I take exception to. His debate tactics, in some cases, in the first debate with Joe Biden, effectively was just talking over him. You should have let Joe Biden talk more, because every time he talks, he makes a fool of himself. But Trump's not like that, and I can forgive much of it, but I would not vote for Dr. Oz under any circumstances. He's already made his case. He's made it clear he's a neocon. He is another Mitt Romney. I suggest that Pennsylvanians find a different Republican candidate within the primaries. And if they lose, who cares? If Dr. Oz gets in and wins anyway, what do you gain by it? CS, thanks for your interesting views. Many more to come. Thank you very much. Oh, geez. I always lose my place because even with slow mode on, there's too many comments. Andrew Levin, how would you suggest I research candidates for my local elections? Look them all up and not on Google. Use Yandex or even Bing, actually. Yeah, it's better than Google is. Look up their views. Try to find old videos of them, like Joe Biden back in the day when he wasn't in favor of abortion. You won't find that on Google if you search for it, by the way, back in the 1970s. Vu Viet Hong sent $10. No comment, thank you. Mr. Twisted Frenzy. Hey, Sticks, how did your experimental pizza go the other day? It was good. However, I think the next time I would slice the beets more thinly and I would saute them. I would probably cook them actually in tomato sauce for some time before putting them on the pizza. It was edible. I ate the whole thing. I don't see why people were so goofed up at it. I thought it was reasonably tasty. Desiccated corpse. Eat the bugs. Live in the pods. You will be happy. Cram spiders down your throat. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Love is hate, etc. Yeah, exactly. That's Klaus Schwab. Emperor Soft Turtle. Razor pretty much explained Oz was best PA GOP had. Yeah, I mean, if that's the best that the GOP in Pennsylvania has, then I guess if I was Pennsylvania, I'd stay home. I'm not going to vote for that moron. There are definitely problems with all of the other possible candidates. If the GOP can't get its ass in line, then don't bother voting for them. I'm not a Republican. I don't give a shit if the Republicans take that seat. Who gives a shit? Drew McTighe. Did you hear the U.S. State Department removed indications that Taiwan is part of China from their website? Also, what do you think they're preparing to invade Taiwan given the latest war games? No, I think that it would be suicidal if China decided to invade Taiwan. It wouldn't be like Ukraine, where the Russians are already apparently having problems, including now around Kharkiv. The problem is that would require a major naval maneuver. One thing that China is good at, huge amount of manpower, lots of small arms, plenty of nukes and stuff. If you're going up against a non-nuclear state like Taiwan, though, which is an island, you need a beefy navy. China doesn't have a beefy navy. It's completely apples to oranges. Russia had one of the top rated land forces in the entire world. I think they had more artillery and tanks than anyone else. And they're still having problems in Ukraine, partially because of Western intervention. Japan, South Korea, Australia, by proxy related to both, and multiple other nations have both spoken up in favor of Taiwan. If China were to invade Taiwan, the Japanese alone could kick the shit out of them. John Marafa, the term Ultra MAGA accomplishes two things. It unites us together and reminds us who it is that hates us. Yes, I will be getting to Ultra MAGA very shortly and doing a main video tomorrow on the subject because it's just so great. It's the greatest mimetic thing I think that's happened since like 2016. Oh boy, when I tell you about what happened with Ultra MAGA, you're gonna shit your pants. Cheap whiskey. Hey Sticks, isn't Kirby cool? What's your favorite Kirby game? Yeah, Kirby was good. I don't know, one of the really early Game Boy games I remember. I can't remember the friggin' name of it. I like that. Kirby, the little pink character that sucks people up into his mouth and then absorbs their powers. Denying S, how do you feel about Trump bringing the guy from Johnson & Johnson on stage? Very good to get independents and neocons to support you. Bad if it's people that are further right or arguably further left. The problem is, or the virtue is, Trump doesn't have to appeal to the further right because he will, if he runs, be the candidate in 2024. Most of these people are partisan and will vote for him anyway. He knows exactly what he's doing. Tom McMorrow, that Kathy Barnett story on BLM was propaganda. Not true. She didn't push BLM. Yes, mostly true. I do understand that. It was edited. That's my understanding. All hail the new Sticks Hexen midget. She's not a midget. She's just young. But yes, you are technically correct. But it's being circulated as though it's great. Yeah, optics matter more than reality within politics, unfortunately. Steady Eddie, 1983, I believe the government is experimenting with corrupting and controlling the supply chain. What better way to advance Marxism than that? Yeah, they're definitely manipulating the supply chain. Absolutely. Vu Viet Hong, I see lots of negativity and black pillars in your chat today. Time to grab popcorn. Shit, you should subscribe on BitChute and look at the comments there on my uploads. Boy, oh boy. Anyway, through some super chats. We'll get to Ultra MAGA. This is the big story of the day and will be a big upload tomorrow as well. Apparently, believe it or not, the liberals spent 6 months researching memes. They're good at flubbing when they do this. And Ultra MAGA is apparently, it was not originally, Jen Psaki claimed that Joe Biden had basically invented the term off the top of his head. And I believed it because I'm like, well, effectively, you're giving a really great term to Donald Trump and to populists and to people that don't like you. You've actually created a term that makes them sound cooler. Ultra MAGA, it's like, oh, it's MAGA, but it's on steroids. It's like, yeah, before you had Pepsi, now you have Pepsi, but they've injected it with heroin. And I figured that was real, that Jen Psaki was actually telling the truth for once. Joe Biden just basically, he quipped it on his own because he's witty, supposedly. Apparently, a liberal focus group actually spent 6 months and presumably millions of dollars, because they're not cheap, inventing the term Ultra MAGA. They spent 6 fucking months figuring out how they could mimetically work around Donald Trump, how they could hammer him, how they could undermine him in some way. And they thought up a slogan, just 2 words, Ultra MAGA. Well, the letter is an acronym, but you know what I mean. Ultra MAGA, to describe Trump's policies and some of the policies of the right wing that have emerged over the last year. Rick Scott was mentioned, for example, abortion and some of these other things, guns, taxes. And somehow, despite spending 6 months and millions of dollars, they completely failed. And it is related to something that is unique to the left. Here's the problem that they have. The left is hyper-centralized. Leftists believe in centrality. They want a top-down approach where the government uber alles controls everything. When you have that kind of a situation, you inevitably run into the problem where organic memeing, in the meme culture that we're in today, where things that are organic, they're put out there, all of a sudden they go viral. It doesn't matter what it is. Fucking Dolan Duck went viral for the better part of a year. All it was poorly drawn Donald Duck cartoons with an extremely edgy twist to them. Many of them have unfortunately disappeared, including the Dolan blog on Tumblr, which was the only Tumblr that was ever any good. That's gone, sadly. Thankfully, I have backups of several dozen of the Dolan comics. I thought it was hilarious. The left literally can't meme. The problem is that the left takes such a top-down approach that it's impossible for organic grassroots material to actually be popularized. The other problem is if you get offended at everything, anything that you can actually provide that might be popular, might go viral, will get banned, will get shot down. Other leftoids will say, oh my God, we can't put that out there. The right wing doesn't have this problem. It's entirely organic, or at least largely organic as far as that goes. So now Donald Trump is the MAGA king. He thanked Biden on Truth Social for this. Can't even imagine how many people joined Truth Social just to interact with that post. And now we have Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA is the idea that MAGA is great. It's a good idea. Securing the border, tax relief, actually going after real criminals, etc. Attempting to make America great again. But it's not enough. We need Ultra MAGA now. We need a double dose of MAGA. We need it on steroids. We need to graduate from marijuana to heroin, effectively. And so thank you, Joe Biden's liberal strike team, probably hired by David Brock, for doing that. You actually, for some reason, the left, in its first major multi-million-dollar endeavor to meme, actually ended up creating a slogan for its enemies. Thank you. And we are all definitely their enemies, regardless of whether we are Republicans or conservatives or not. I know that I'm not, but I'm still anti-com. I will not vote for a party that mollycoddles terroristic communists. Nervous Sips. Dr. Oz is a far leftist who supports puberty blockers for 5-year-olds. He would be the newest member of the squad if elected. Trump showed his true colors. No, I think that Trump just thought he was electable and controllable. I happen to disagree. I do oppose Dr. Oz. I wouldn't vote for him if I was a Pennsylvanian. I would vote for somebody else. Barnett. There are several others in the race that are viable. I would vote for someone else. I don't know why he made that decision. I have a feeling it does not have to do with Trump wanting puberty blockers for 5-year-olds, though. I think that's a bit of a stretch. Don't care, still voting Trump, but I wouldn't be voting for Dr. Oz. Greta Thanos, the end is near. Yeah, probably is. Alamendorius, hey Sticks, want to know the difference in U.S. income tax and Canadian? I owe $2,860 Canadian to the U.S. I owe $7,960 to Canada in the same tax year. So you can use that as an example next time a leftist says how great Canada is. Yes, well, it depends on your situation with regards to residency, to tell the truth, too. For instance, if you're a resident in multiple countries, you might be able to pay taxes in one, and that's a write-off technically for the other, the higher tax one. It depends. But yeah, Canada is very high tax, yes. Transylvanian 90. Do you think Biden's Trump MAGA King comment was just Biden's senility out loud again, or are his handlers really stupid enough to think it would help them politically to go that route? I think it's the latter. I don't think it was Biden who thought this up. The MAGA King, Ultra MAGA thing, really, remember, what was it called? Oh, Jesus. It's Elizabeth Warren related. Elizabeth Warren's meme team back during the last election when she was running in the primaries against Biden and Bloomberg and all the others. Do you remember that? And they produced, they must have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to put the team together. And they created several memes, and they were the cringiest shit ever. And this is a politician. She has tens of millions of dollars. She's well known. She's more viable than many of the other candidates. Like, certainly she's better than a Beto O'Rourke from a candidacy perspective. And she had this meme team that was very transparently making the most cringe shit ever. And they took it seriously. It was actually her team. When I first saw it, I thought it was a parody. I thought, okay, this is a group of right-wingers. These are MAGA fans or even Jeb fans or something. And they're ridiculing her. The whole idea is satire. I couldn't believe it. It's actually real. They thought it was a good idea. And the same thing I think is true for Biden's people. They just can't meme. They don't understand how astroturfing doesn't work these days. It doesn't work because it can be instantaneously fact-checked and satirized and run into the ground by all of the other people out there. That's why they want more censorship, so they can make astroturf lame memes. That's why we must defend against that kind of controlled internet, by the way. Otherwise, all the jokes will not be funny. They'll be like my dad jokes. The Sticks Hexen Toolbox. Please come back, King. Inflation is so bad that the shed owner can't afford a new hammer. We need you for God's sake. P.S. Please send my love to 6 Drill. BW, what do you think will happen in the Pennsylvania Senate race? Do you think DeSantis will keep the governor and overturn those rulings against election force and all? Well, DeSantis is Florida. I think you mean, I think this is 2 questions. In the Pennsylvania Senate race, it's basically a 3-way tie. I can't give a prediction. We need more polling. As far as DeSantis, yes, he will be reelected. There's basically no risk that DeSantis will lose against Crist. And it will be Crist running against him. It won't be that Nikki Fried bitch, because she clearly, she made a TikTok page. She got actually dragged over that. Okay, if a person in their mid-40s makes a TikTok page and they're trying to be cool, yeah, the people on TikTok are less than half your age. They consider you elderly, and they're too young to vote, so I don't understand what the purpose was. Grim Lacour on Twitch. Thank you, Mr. Hammer. I've been stocking up on non-perishables and packed the freezer. A good idea. Yes, I guess stock up on formula and toilet paper, canned corn, beans, rice. BW, congratulations on your baby, by the way. Thank you very much. She's asleep at the moment. Desiccated corpse. If you had a death note, whose names would you write on it? Nobody. Maybe the birds that keep harassing the cats and making them get frenetic. I don't know what their names are. I'd have to guess. A crafty Huraga. Can you explain to people the difference between inflation and debt? Leftists I talk to don't understand. Inflation is effectively the depreciation of currency. It's another way of expressing it. Don't think about anything in dollar terms. Don't think about how much things cost, how much you make, etc. Only think of the dollar as an intermediary of purchasing power. $100 means nothing. because right now it can purchase a certain amount of goods. Let's say 100 coconuts. It's an exaggeration. It's probably like 10 at this point. Maybe next year it only purchases 50 coconuts. So $100 is totally malleable. The term means absolutely nothing. As far as debt, that's just the amount that the country owes. Most of it, thankfully, is internal. When people say we're owned by China, they're wrong. China is the second largest holder of foreign debt in the U.S., and the majority of debt is held domestically in bond form, etc. It's an issue, it's a problem, but it's not an existential issue. I would say inflation right now is more of an existential issue. There are people, because of the price hikes, that can't afford basic goods. When they slow down their purchasing, that's going to cripple U.S. business. It will happen. It will happen over the next couple of months. I expect unemployment to begin rising fairly soon. You will see a stagflationary cycle. There's a 90% chance of it. I hate to tell you this, but you need to stock up now. If you have the means to stock up at all, get some basic goods. John Marafa, Elizabeth Warren, aka the Librarian Hellspawn. I don't get the reference, but yeah. Cyberfrog, Barnett lost her only election by 20 points and claimed it was stolen. I have serious questions about her viability in a general election. Well, let me ask you this. If Dr. Oz is the candidate, dual citizen, neocon, won't answer whether he would vote for this massive funny money spending to Ukraine, etc., what's the difference? Okay, so the seat is lost. Who cares? The alternative is Dr. Oz wins, and you've got a neocon in there. You got a Mitt Romney. How is that any different? If anything, it'd be better that the Democrats control the seat so that it's one less thing for the Republicans to sit on their laurels about and say, well, we can deal with this, as Dr. Oz votes with Mitt Romney and Liz Cheney. It'd be better off to lose the seat. Fuck Dr. Oz. I wouldn't vote for him if he paid me. He probably will pay people to vote for him. Kind of person that he is. You can see it in his smile. He has that smile that's common to people who sell you cars. Oh, yes. Yes, this baby can get 50 miles to the per gallon. Yeah, if you push it downhill, maybe. It's totally not a lemon, by the way. Now, it was only driven by one little old lady who only went to church on Sundays with it. 5,000 miles. Animander Rake, surprised you hold Catcher in the Rye and Crime and Punishment in such low regard. Both are essential reading, in my opinion. Yeah, not a fan of them. I think that most essential reading for high schoolers sucks. I think most of it was terrible. I ended up reading so many more books on my own accord, from my dad's collection, from the library, wherever. I must have read 1,000 books when I was in high school, and only a small minority of them were part of any English curriculum. I thought most of them were boring. There were exceptions. Blood Meridian was great. The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, I mean, it's an old classic book. I thought it was fun. It was entertaining. There's some humor in it. There's some adventure in it. It's interesting. It's good to read. Hemingway, any of his works, etc. But The Sound and the Fury, The Great Gatsby, count me out. Lord of the Flies is sort of the cutoff. Lord of the Flies was readable, although not choice. I liked, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. If you get a chance to read that book, definitely read it. It's got time travel in it. John Balnice, please tell Ethan Ralph that Adrian Blair won. I don't know the context of that because I'm not keeping up with the e-drama between him and, I don't know, I think a dozen people at this point. Let's see. 87 Sparky, thanks for the tip. You're welcome. I totally don't watch Portland Andy. Ultra MAGA. OMG, it's Warren's meme team again. Yes, exactly. It really harkens back to Warren's meme team. It's just as cringy, if not worse. I mean, she was a candidate at the time. She's in the primaries. Okay, your budget's a little smaller. You're a tertiary candidate. She came in third in her own home state in the Dem primaries, just to be clear. Biden is, supposedly the U.S. president. Honk, honk, asterisk administration. You can't do better than that. You accidentally gave an arrow to your opponent and put it in their quiver for them. Several. Ultra MAGA and King MAGA. Fubar 2020, what is the most substantial proof that the 2020 election was, and I can't repeat the rest of the tweet because we're on YouTube. There's no evidence whatsoever. Everything in that Mules movie is completely false. You only trace people to within 2 meters of polling sites. That means absolutely nothing. It's all just bullshit. There were no shenanigans. Therefore, we don't need to look into it. Hint, hint. Westfield 90, Dr. Oz is not a politician, and I think he truly would be mindful of the voters who put him into office and will stay the line on like lifers like Romney. Bullshit. Absolutely he won't. He's a self-serving, empty suit. You should not vote for Dr. Oz in Pennsylvania. Anyone else in the primaries, it doesn't matter if you lose the primaries. Who cares? If you have a shitty candidate, who cares if they win? It's sort of like with Romney. It's like, okay, Mitt Romney versus generic Democrat here. Okay, I don't really want a Democrat elected, but it's Mitt Romney. Who cares? Let the fucking Democrats take the seat. Who cares? There are at least a couple Democrats with some sense. Look at Joe Manchin. Look at Joe Manchin go. I'd rather have a Joe Manchin Democrat than someone like Dr. Oz anyway. Who cares if you win the seat? Now, I read yesterday that Murkowski is winning in Alaska. How? Long-term incumbency. That's the only reason. Yeah. Charmy Woo saying Dr. Oz gives off dirty old man vibes. Yeah, he has sort of that weird televangelist attitude. He's got the, what was his name? John Edwards, and not the one that did the spiritualism, the spirit calling, the one that ran for the Democrats for a while there. And my mom actually voted for him. Funny story. Mom was charmed by him. She thought that he was charming because he had that boyish smile and then the capped hair and the typical evangelical shuffle, even though he was a Democrat. And then it came out a few years later that he was cheating on his cancer-stricken wife. Yeah, real great dude. He had that moralistic vibe, the televangelist style. He knew how to do the smile in just the right way. Shake your hand, nice and slow and firm, and all of this other stuff. And he is a fraud. And now he's been completely disgraced, and he's no longer in politics, thankfully. That's Dr. Oz in a nutshell. And if he's elected, he'll stab Trump in the back if he runs in 2024. You watch me and listen good. He will. It will happen if that occurs. Kick him out. Don't vote for him. I oppose Dr. Oz. Only Trump endorsement. Not only can I not get behind it, I have to actively oppose it because it's such a terrible idea. Matthew Robert Witherspoon, Ukraine intel chief says coup is underway in Russia. I would be doubtful of that. Be big if it happens, though. Stranger things have happened. You remember when there was the Moscow coup back in the Yeltsin days, and there was like a shortwave radio broadcast. I think it was part of the Conet project. They've compiled it. You can look that up, actually, I think on YouTube. Look up Conet project, C-O-N-E-T project, shortwave radio. A really creepy broadcast, by the way. Play that at night. It's great. I remember the shortwave broadcast listening on U20, which is actually based here in Enschede. I'm happy to say it's like a couple miles from here. During the North Korean crisis, the standoff with South Korea years and years ago. I remember reading all the on-hap news articles, actually. And it was great. Anyway, yeah, look into that. There was a Moscow coup attempt, and there were all sorts of shortwave radio broadcasts that were being broadcasted at the time. I don't know what they're saying because it's all in Ruski. I'm allowed to say Ruski, actually, and normally it would be considered a slur, but these days it's okay to use slurs against Russians. Your mother was a hamster. I'm in Pennsylvania, and Oz's campaign commercials are hilariously cringe. I don't know anyone who's voting for him. Make sure that you turn out people to vote for someone else in the primaries. Find one of the other viable candidates and back them and knock on doors. Get rid of Dr. Oz. Trust me. If there's anything that's going to derail a potential Trump presidency starting in 2024, it's going to be people like Dr. Oz. He's basically the Pennsylvanian Mitt Romney. So don't elect him. It would be better for Trump to have to smooth things over with a Republican that he didn't endorse than to have to deal with some moron like Dr. Oz. You want to help out the populist movement? Knock on 10 doors. That's your chore for today. I'm giving you homework. Your homework, all Pennsylvanians today, knock on 10 doors and tell people not to vote for Dr. Oz. Doesn't matter if they vote for Barnett or if they just stay home. Don't vote for him. It's a bad idea. I'm telling you, it'll come back to bite Trump in the ass if he gets elected. Scott Steiner, the world's greatest ring announcer. Remember, Dr. Oz was found by Oprah. Hint, hint. Yeah, that's a good point. Also adjacent, therefore, to was it Dr. Phil, which is basically the middle class version of Jerry Springer or Maury. Yeah, Dr. Oz needs to lose, my dude. Trust me, it won't be funny if he gets in there. He's an absolute backstabber. Yeah. Zero Fan Mab. Sticks, I agree that Oz would stab anyone in the back, not limited to Trump. Oz is out for himself. He is no more a team player than a house cat, as you already know. Yeah, I think I would trust the cats first. And one of the cats jumped up onto my hand the other day during the live stream and clawed me up. I don't think that you can see it, but it wasn't exactly fun. I'm so used to it, I don't even react at this point. I get clawed up all the time. But I don't think that the nation needs to get clawed up by Dr. Oz. Yeah, Catherine Masor, yeah, you're making a good point. This is John Edwards. Edwards got his girlfriend pregnant while his wife was dying. Yeah, exactly. And he cast himself off as, I'm the moral candidate. Not like, was it Dick Gephardt? And can't remember who else was in the running at the time. It was many years ago. I can't remember even which election it was, 2008, 2004. I think it was 2004. So Kerry? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he cast himself off as the Democrat. I believe in all of the liberal values, but I've also got a heart of gold and I believe in Jesus Christ. Meanwhile, he's banging his mistress while his wife is dying. This is a common theme within DC politics, by the way. My second nephew, I don't know why, but I'm very optimistic about the future. That's a good way to think. If you want to be even more optimistic, self-improve. Work the extra shift, build the extra skill, get a little bit more money, get a little bit more power, do whatever you need to do, especially if you're on the young side. If I had started my work 5 years earlier, I don't even know how far ahead I'd be. Transylvanian 90. Anything the Ukrainian government puts out about events in Russia should be taken with the same grain of salt as Putin's everyone in Ukraine and now Poland are Nazis propaganda to justify his war. Yes, exactly. And yeah, you are seeing Putin. Apparently, everyone who doesn't like Putin is a Nazi. He sounds, I'm surprised that the U.S. Democratic Party doesn't support Putin. He's saying the same thing that they do. Oh, you don't like you don't want to groom kids in elementary school? You fucking Nazi. You don't want to confiscate 90% of the wealth from the rich and then destroy the economy? Well, you must be a Nazi. You're basically Hitler. And it sounds a lot like them. He should move to the United States. He can run as a Democrat in the Senate. Westfield 90, your Dr. Oz vitriol seems over-the-top personal. Seriously, you'd rather have a Dem win than win that seat than Oz? No wonder conservatives are divide and lose. Well, he's not a conservative. So what's the difference? Who cares? If the alternative is a Republican who's not going to be populistic in any way, it's going to be like a Mitt Romney, or a Democrat, what the hell is the difference? They're going to vote the same way on anything that matters. Okay, they'll differ on a budget bill. The Republican will say, well, we need to parse it down by 2 or 3%. I don't like this one aspect of the $10 trillion spending bill. The Democrat won't have that problem. What's the difference? In the scheme of things, it makes no difference at all. In fact, it's better to have the Democrat in that seat because you know what the Democrat will do. The Republican, meanwhile, what it does is it calms the conservative lay down. The fact that it has an R after its name makes them more calm. Therefore, turnout's depressed. Activism is depressed. And they say, well, I can make do with this. It's better than the alternative, the fucking Democrats. And so they get more complacent. It would be better to have a Democrat so that they keep more angry. So they get angry and maybe turn out in larger numbers next time. No, Dr. Oz should not be voted for. And anyway, we're talking about a primary. Vote for some other Republican candidate in their primary and go ahead and back them in the general. This isn't Dr. Oz versus the Dem. This is Dr. Oz versus several other Republicans at the moment. It's a primary. Vote your conscience. Vote against Dr. Oz if you care about conservatism. I personally do not, but I wouldn't vote for Dr. Oz even if I was. If I was like a card-carrying Republican, I'd think, what the fuck? The hell is the point of backing this moron? It's a crazy idea to back him. Dahmen Hall, 1989. California Circuit rules their ban on sale of assault weapons to under 21 is unconstitutional. Seems the courts are slowly starting to find their balls when it comes to the Second Amendment. That's because it's self-evidently unconstitutional. They're members of the militia. Of course, they should be able to buy the same guns everyone else does. Yes, that is good. And by the way, the Ninth Circuit was overhauled by Trump. So when people are saying, well, even the Ninth Circuit is going against this ban, well, that's not surprising because Trump changed the iteration of the court. I hope this happens in my native Vermont. They've got a similar ban. It's also unconstitutional. Matthew Robert Witherspoon. The West is committed to removing Putin. Bam. And I don't think that anyone actually wants to remove Putin. You look at the Ukraine deal. Basically, it's just a kickback bill. It's a reason to use slush funds and make a lot of money. They like the fact that Putin's in there. Like I said, Biden is glad that Ukraine got invaded. I think that most of the people in the Senate are glad too. They like dead Ukrainians. Makes them money. Transylvanian 90. For Dr. Oz versus a Democrat, better the enemy you know, a Dem, than the false friend who stabs you in the back when it matters, like Romney or Collins. Yeah, exactly. Desiccated corpse. More inflation. Stupid SOB. Where am I? I want an ice cream. Come on, man. Bilbo's blog. Have you watched The Greatest Story Never Told? An untold story about Adolf Hitler. Really, really good. Actually, I haven't watched that. I've heard of it for quite some time. Never got around to watching it. I was too busy watching Legends of Atlantis, I suppose. Yeah. Tango in the Night over on Rumble. 88K followers. And then a statement that I can't repeat on a live stream that's on YouTube. By the way, how many Biden loser units are we at? Got over 300 there. Yeah, we're at 8 Biden loser units at the moment. So over 2,400 people watching cross-platform at this time. Vermont has the same gun laws as Massachusetts, says Buckaroo Boston. Yes, but Vermont also has constitutional carry and was the first state to have it, number one. Also, we are set to become the 41st state to allow suppressors when hunting so that hunters don't go deaf beforehand. Of course, they're supposed to lose their hearing in order to kill a deer. Vermont is a little bit more lenient. Unfortunately, Rick Scott, the current Republican governor, the rhino, the fake conservative, when he was elected, and I had voted for him, actually, he had stood against gun control broadly, by and large. After Sandy Hook, he immediately signed on to the exact same gun control plan that Sue Minter, his opponent, had championed, which was a Bloomberg diaspora bill. The only element of it that he didn't impose was an attempt to ban assault rifles. Everything else, exactly out of Bloomberg's book. It was a laundry list. Johnny Cash, GM6, Dems are sure to argue systemic racism if Trump runs again and bring up January 6th and other stuff. How would you approach that topic in a debate? I would point out that January 6th was clearly not an insurrection. Then you can quote Trump as having told people to go home with peace in their hearts. As far as systematic racism, I would shrug my shoulders and not even bother rebutting it because the argument has gotten so old, nobody takes it seriously. Fantech0104, your pick for worst U.S. governor excluding Scott. No, if Rick Scott's not, unless Newsom. Newsom would definitely be the worst. Of California, he's running his state into the ground. He's a panderer. He's a hypocrite. He's a lockdowner. He's everything wrong with state-level politics, actually. I can't think of someone less qualified. And keep in mind that crazy bitch from Michigan is also still in the running, Whitmer. Newsom's even worse than her somehow. The Happy Plague Doctor. I bought a Taurus G2 on my lunch break yesterday to ward off mountain lions while I'm metal detecting in the canyons. Excellent. I'm not a Taurus man myself. I prefer Glock. However, each person to their own. Westfield 90. In the early 2020s, Dr. Oz was on Fox nightly supporting Trump's COVID comments and backing HCQ and other therapeutics. So he is not as ignorant as Romney. That may have been why he was chosen, but that doesn't mean that he's not a backstabbing, self-serving turncoat, because he is. I wouldn't vote for him. Nothing that a person could say would get me to vote for Dr. Oz. He's unqualified. If anything, he's going to help bring the Republicans down by being unqualified and being in office if he gets elected. What the hell would you want that dead weight? Be better to let the Democrats hold the seat. BW, I worry that if a Democrat gets the seat, they will finally have 50 votes to undo filibuster since cinema doesn't always vote our way. See, there's several problems with that. The main problem is that after the midterms, the Republicans will hold the House, so it doesn't matter what happens with the filibuster, at least temporarily. The second problem is that there are several other Senate seats held by Dems that are definitely hazarded. It doesn't matter if Dr. Oz or whoever the Republican is wins the Pennsylvania seat. At the very least, the Democrats are not going to gain more Senate seats. If they're lucky, they'll keep it at 50-50. They're probably not going to be able to do that. To undo the filibuster, you'd need to have a filibuster-proof majority. They're not going to get that. They're going to lose the Senate in all likelihood. I'd give about a 90% chance that they lose at least 2 Senate seats. Yeah, people talking about Glocks now. I have a Glock 42 and a Glock 17. Former 380, the latter in 9mm. They're both very reliable. Ironically, the Glock 42 is more reliable than the Glock 17 as far as firing and accurately. God, you could, at short range, you'll never miss with that shit. And I have big hands. You know, I'll do a Trump joke here. It's the one problem with the gun is it's a little bit hard to hold it comfortably with both hands and not have the slide come back and pinch you right here. I had that problem once. It was not fun. But yeah, Glock 42 and Glock 17, you can't get better than that. I like guns. I'm back in the States. I'm going to buy several more. I want to get a 22 rifle, something for garden protection, you know, nothing big. I'd like to get a tactical pistol. The Czech Scorpion looks good. I want to get one with an integral suppressor because, you know, then you won't go deaf. Getting a shotgun is always a good idea, I suppose. I'm not huge into them. But I like Glock for handguns. I prefer revolvers myself. Like my first gun was an HR Sportsman, probably from about the 70s that my grandfather gave me. He wanted me to have that actually when he was older. And it's like the greatest thing ever. Top break, 9 shots. It's 22 long rifle, so it's, you know, it's a varmint revolver. Really great in every possible respect. Totally reliable. You can get speed loaders for it, which is always helpful. Great gun overall. I don't know how many thousands of rounds I've fired through that. Desiccated Corpse. Amazon's Lord of the Rings is doomed to fail. They're going to fill it to the brim with SJW shit and ruin the franchise. They went for nerd culture. They went for Star Trek, Doctor Who, and video games. Doctor Who, I will defend if they have a black, literally, I think, African doctor. Doctor Who can reincarnate as whoever he wants. I don't care what the Doctor's form takes. I'm not a huge Whovian or anything like that. I've watched some of the series, kind of like the old ones from multiple decades ago, back in the 80s or whatever. But the Doctor can be old, young, whatever race, gender, you know, could be a midget. It doesn't matter. As far as Star Trek, I don't care because I hate Star Trek. I think it's, you know, retarded. As far as Lord of the Rings, I care a little bit more. But my big thing, and I made a video about this before, when they did the trailer for Amazon's Lord of the Rings, I don't care about the wokeness side of it because there is some wiggle room with regards to Tolkien's races in some cases. But they made the CGI look goddamn hideous. It looks so terrible. It's not going to hold up, and nobody's going to want to watch the franchise. They're going to, I'll tell you what they'll do. They'll lowball it with regards to the CGI budget. They'll make it look hideous. People won't watch it. It'll get canceled, and then they'll blame racists. They've done this before. I agree, though. It is doomed to fail. Domenhall, 1989. Favorite Dutch food? Rookwurst for me. I like Stamppot, but I really love bitterballen. I don't know. I don't understand why some people pan Dutch food and say, well, Dutch food is terrible. What are you talking about, dude? And haring is good, too. I realize it's basically just a semi-raw gelatinous smoked fish with pickles and onions, but somehow it's delicious. Rookwurst is good. Croquette is good. It's basically like an elongated bitterballen. You can kind of turn it into a hot dog if you want to. Lepko 92. We look too much on Congress and POTUS. We need to purge the judiciary of Bush and Obama picks. Weimar failed to do this, so right-wing violence was given slaps on the wrist. It's where the law is applied. Well, the system that we're using seems to work fairly well considering the Ninth Circuit firing on California's gun control. I wouldn't worry too much about the judiciary. It's just a convenient boogeyman for people who disagree with its decisions. Blank page over on Twitch. Glocks are pretty, though. Yeah, Glocks look good. You can leave them in a puddle for several weeks, they'll still fire. The reliability really is the most positive aspect, as opposed to any other function of the gun. They're just massively reliable. Most of the models, they're extremely highly rated on that. I want to make sure the gun fires. If the sighting is off by a minuscule amount at short range, it's not going to matter. But if the gun doesn't fire, if the reliability aspect isn't there and it jams or something, you're fucked. Okay, I'll take the Glock. I am absolutely part of the Glock family when it comes to handguns. As far as revolvers, I just like them all. I think that they're sexy. As far as rifles, I don't know. I don't own one yet. Stephen13, Charlie Crist might get all the wokes to vote for him. I'm voting for DeSantis, hoping DeSantis pulls off the upset. There won't be an upset. That fucking race. Upset? What are you talking about? DeSantis has like a 99% chance of winning. Crist is an old career politician. He doesn't even have all the liberal support in Florida. He'll beat Nikki Fried, of course. He will get the nomination. She's too busy making TikTok videos, and she's fucking 44. So you understand the dynamic here. Now, Crist will lose. DeSantis will win re-election. You should still vote for him. Vote like he's one vote behind, is the old adage. Go out, knock on doors, get people active, and say, make the case for DeSantis. You should be encouraged to do that. However, the election there will not be fortified. The honkening is gone there. I think that he'll win by, let me make a prediction at this point. I would say if the election were held today, DeSantis would win by 7 points. And it'll probably be more by the midterms because the economy is collapsing. Colonel Quayle, Dear Sticks, can Satanism survive without gay marriage, abortion, and porn? It's very, very funny because actually Anton LaVey had some ideas with regards to gay marriage and appears to have not supported it. So actually the Church of Satan, originally at least, not I think recently, opposed the concept of gay marriage, which is funny. Also opposed drug use, just to be clear. There was a bit of an authoritarian modification on what would be considered Ayn Rand objectivism by Anton LaVey. He effectively copied elements of Might is Right by Ragnar Redbeard, which is a kind of quasi-libertarian text from 100 years prior. It had some authoritarian blood and soil overtones, though, so it can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Certified Sushi sent $1. No comment, thank you. By the way, no more super chats, please, cross-platform, because we're going up on an hour. Westfield 90, love woke companies like Netflix, Sony, Disney, Twitter, standing up to their woke employees. Funny how revenue became important once the economy tanked. Yeah, you'll see more of that. It's always darkest before dawn. Don't worry about things so much. Just get active. Improve yourself, improve your communities, and let the rest sort itself out. Liam Hawkins, I graduate from college today. Thank you for all the vids to get me through the insanity. Congratulations on graduation to Liam Hawkins. I don't know what degree you're getting. Hopefully it's not women's studies. Transylvanian 90, my grandfather was gifted a pistol by an uncle when he was a young man. Unfortunately, this was in 1950s communist Romania, so the only reasonable course of action he saw was to dump it in a river. He should have sold it on the black market. Good capitalism. The Grizzly, do you think that the lockdownerism for the midterms will work out for Dems? If they start up more COVID shrieking. They are trying it. I made an exclusive today with regards to North Korea claiming to have a COVID outbreak. I can't mention it on YouTube. Go to my BitChute channel, Odyssey, Rumble, or Minds, and you can watch that. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's a little bit of backroom shenanigans going on through China at the moment among the Democrats and the neocons, by the way. George Paul, did you hear that Biden wants to fund the police to the tune of $350 billion? Complete 180. Well, he was never a defund the police dude. It was Kamala that did that. The leftoids will be angry at this. They still want to defund completely, although they try to tell people to forget that they ever said that because it's not feasible as far as politics goes. You'll notice as the midterms approach, suddenly ideas change. What is focused on is completely different the closer you get to midterms. Almost a mathematical relationship, actually. Very strange and very coincidental. Let's see, got several more here. The Grizzly, also, do you think that Biden's ministry could get injuncted in the courts for First Amendment violations? No, because it's an advisory panel. So no, they can study US user data all they want. They claim that they're not studying it all, which is bullshit, but they can look at it if they want to do so. They can issue recommendations. That doesn't violate the First Amendment. They're not capable of taking any legal action. It's just a terrible idea to have such a ministry in the first place. I'm glad they formed it, though, because even independents pan the idea so thoroughly. It doesn't exactly help the liberals. Calvin 75. To avoid Glock slide burn, get a SIG P365 or P320. 365 is not as top heavy. For 22, Ruger 1022 takedown for easy storage and concealment. No, I'm going to stick with Glock. I love my Glock 42. It's nice and light. You know, you go out in the woods and a bear might attack you or something. I think I'd prefer the Glock 17 for that, though, to tell the truth. Also fairly light. I don't know why people bitch about handguns being too heavy. What do they weigh, 2 pounds? Come on, you can carry that. You're a man, right? Selly, 2 times Trump voter and would not vote for DeSantis in 24. He's too cookie-cutter GOP. The people who want DeSantis are the people who called Trump a neocon in 2016. I disagree slightly. I think DeSantis is a reasonable choice, but I do want Trump 2024. My personal choice, if I could set things up for the next 20 years, let's say I was dictator of reality, it'd be Trump and Rand Paul 2024. Then Rand Paul takes it up. He gets DeSantis as VP, runs twice. And then thereafter, DeSantis runs with whoever he chooses as running mate. I don't mind DeSantis. I think on many things he's done a good job. Economically, not on red flag laws, not on certain things, but generally above average for the GOP. The GOP, I know it doesn't have a great average, but there are some people that stand out. Trump, Rand Paul, DeSantis to a lesser extent, I would admit. Not Ted Cruz, though. He'd be better off getting Marco Rubio. It's little Marco. Baron Von Blair. Beretta PX4 is nice. Glock is great, though. Clank. Yeah, I will stick with Glock. Once I develop any form of association with a brand, if it works, if it's good, I tend to just stick with it because I don't believe in fixing what ain't broken. So I am part of the Glock family as far as handguns go. I'd like to get another one. The real debate is among Glock fans, Glock 17 or Glock 19. Yeah, watch the commentary explode among the Glock fans, by the way. And telling each other why they should be sad for having whatever opinion they have. Buckaroo, Boston, over on Rumble. There was a bear in New Hampshire they found that had dozens of 380, 9mm, 22, and even a few rifle rounds in it, and had it in for years, but it died of old age. Bears are tough. Well, they must not have hit it properly. Shoot it in the eye, I suppose. Come on, a 9mm should be able to kill a bear. It's got enough penetrative power to do that. If you aim properly, I mean, if you hit it in the foot, I suppose it's just going to piss it off. Sticks, you're not seriously thinking of bringing a pistol to a bear fight. I'd rather not fight a bear at all, although there is one that was at one point climbing up on one of the pine trees on the property when I was there last. And it's probably an adult by now, and I think that it is a male, so it's probably about 300 pounds. So, yeah, there is a bear out in the woods back there that raids people's trash, apparently, sometimes. Mike Huntu, watch for Neocon Inc. AstroTurfing DeSantis come 24. I don't think that DeSantis is really a neocon. I consider him more of a missing link Republican. He's not full-on MAGA populist. He's not libertarian-leaning like Rand Paul. And that's why I prefer Trump first and Rand second. Of the rest of the Republicans that are viable, though, I think that he would do a reasonably good job. Not as good as Rand, not as good as Trump, but I think that he would be decent. And decent's what we need. A 4 out of 10 presidency would be better than most of what we've been through since first term of Reagan anyway. So don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Better than nothing. Yeah, I'm team G17, by the way, for the Glock. Nick Ash. Oh, well, welcome back. Yes, indeed. 9mm can kill a bear, but not stop it in its tracks, so you'd be dead before the bear, says Jack of Blades. Not necessarily, and the idea of stopping power is a bullshit idea anyway. Yeah, any round you fire, it's going to stop a bear, its momentum. Okay, what are you firing at? At it? The highest gauge shotgun that you can get. What are you firing at? A rocket launcher? Fucking rocket launcher, it'd still be skidding underneath the explosion. You're not going to, the stopping power does not matter when you're facing off against an animal that's maybe 400 pounds charging downhill at you. So I will stick with something that will cause it to bleed out if you hit it in a critical artery or maybe its heart. Anyway, with I mean, just fill it full of holes. And then if it gets up close, beat it over the head and hope that you don't get bitten somewhere that you bleed out before it dies. That's basically the only hope that you have, other than it may be running away if you're really lucky, if it's trying to predate upon you. Ree, says Thomas Ladders. Yeah, that's the sound of the Taurus fans. The Cornbringer. A 22 can do the job if you're confident. There's several facets to consider in defense. A 22 is fine on some things. I don't believe it would do much against a bear. Pretty much bounce off, actually. Oompa Loompa on Twitch. Styx is kind of clueless on hunting. Well, when I'm going out in the woods, I'm not hunting. That's the whole point. I'm not interested in hunting. It's for self-defense against humans or animals or whatever happen to the aliens. If a bear comes after me, a Glock 17 is certainly better than picking up a stick now, isn't it? That's quite clear. My feeling is I can probably manage to hit the bear before it gets to me, considering the ammo capacity. I'm not that bad with a handgun. Prefer revolvers, but the 22, it wouldn't work much, and it's a lot heavier in hand than the Glock 17, so... Westfield 90, conservatives don't know how to play politics. Sessions and Barr were invisible. Didn't even stop Antifa. Biden's crew are pushing the envelope every day. Yes, but the problem is the pushing of the envelope is alienating people. So there is that. Sometimes you push it a little too far. Yeah. Yeah, I think that the best thing if a bear attacks you would be to have like a really high wattage laser, actually. Just blind it. It's not going to be attacking you for long. I'll just carry one of those out of the woods. Anyway, the baby's starting to make sleepy time noises, which means it'll probably be fussy time soon. And we've gone over an hour, so I think that I will stop the broadcast now. I had fun talking about killing bears with a 22 caliber pistol. Try that. Let me see how it works. One last one. Jeff Tube, Clanking in Oklahoma. Big love for you. Yes, Oklahoma. Want to see it again someday. I went through briefly. Interesting color of your water there. Not sure that it's drinkable, though. That's about all. Peace out.